video yet, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going live right now. We're live.
We're live. Okay.
Sorry, my apologies. My apologies.
No worries. It just went on.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are ready to start the call. Thank you for joining. My name is Enrique Viñan. I'm the training manager here at Peru, and I'm here with.
I'm Jamie Brancato, and I'm the director of program and training.
And we also have two more staff members on the line.
Michelle, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Davis. I'm your country manager for Peru.
There's a lot of back noise. Yeah.
Could everybody please, invitees, could you please mute your phones, your lines, so that we don't get that background noise, please?
Hi, this is Miriam. This is your program manager. Very nice meeting you. I've been working with the Peace Corps for a number of years, and right now I'm having this call from DC since I'm having a training up here. But looking forward to call and also working with you in the future.
All right. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Michelle. I know how many people are there on the call?
I think it's 17.
Okay, 17 people on the call. Thank you all for joining. And then we have 12 people watching live. So that's great. Just a reminder again, please mute your phones. If you have questions, you can type them on the chat on the YouTube live. And then for the people joining us on the conference call line, you can there will be a time for questions at the end. All right. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you is learning space, right? Most of you actually have already started working on your tasks on learning space. Remember to go learning.peacecorps.gov, and then you'll see the Peru 34 course page. There you'll find the urgent tasks that you need to complete. You may need to make sure that you tick on them. Michelle will tell you more about them in a minute. And then you also have the uploading document section. There are 3 documents you need to upload. Aspiration statement in English, your resume in Spanish, that's very important. You guys need to make sure that you download the Word document, you fill it out, and then you upload it again. It has to be in Word, it cannot be in PDF, because our program assistants are in charge of finalizing these documents and sending them to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? And to the Peruvian Agency for International Cooperation. They requested that specific format, and that's why we need to have it in that format. So please make sure that you complete it in that format. And then you also need to complete your resumes in English, right? So those 3 documents will help us start coordinations, will help us get to know you more and better. We've also asked you to upload your videos. Your language facilitators have been interacting with you on that. That's great. So please continue doing that if you still haven't done so. We'll ask you for a new video. Later today, I'll be emailing you and asking you to upload a new video. And then there's also a section that says required readings. In that section, you'll have your project framework with the activities and objectives that the community health program has included in the framework. You also have information about what a community health volunteer does in the field, and also who are the main stakeholders and the main counterparts that community health volunteers work with, right? So you have that information to give you a clear idea of what you will be doing in the field, right? And we want you to be very clear on what the job is going to be and what you're going to be doing during the next 2 years. So that's why we're giving you that information. And we'll also post a quiz after that to make sure that you've read the information and that you are clear on these main concepts, so that when you get to pre-service training, we know that we're speaking the same language, right? So please, if you have any questions on learning space, if you have any technical difficulties, please do not hesitate to contact me. Just email me and I'll be able to help you with that, right? I'm gonna pass it over to Miriam, who's going to share with us a little bit more about the community health program, right? Miriam?
Hi, yes. Okay, so I think we are in a super exciting time for the health program. We just finished the project review, so we will be working with a brand new LPF, Logical Project Framework. And the idea is that we will help rural families to improve their health. That's our main goal. We will be doing so from the lens of capacity building and also behavior change. What we will be working with you is on 3 different objectives: to increase the capacity of the community health service providers, to deliver health promotion activities to prevent and reduce anemia and chronic malnutrition. So anemia and chronic malnutrition plus early pregnancy are 3 of the main biggest issues health-wise in Peru. So we will try to support local efforts in that sense to reduce them, to work against them. Also, you will be working with health service providers, you will be working with school-based staff, teachers, school directors, etc. And the idea, again, is that you will be working with them as trainers in order to implement activities and programs to prevent early pregnancy and also other health issues like nutrition or mental health, but from the point of view of prevention. So we will be helping the Peruvians to do a better job when they are delivering their services in health promotion. So you will be working with the high school in your local town, the health facility, and local volunteers that are named agentes comunitarios, community health aides. So those will be your primary counterparts. And the idea is that you will be visiting the local health facility on a daily basis, you will be coordinating activities with them. Likewise, you will be visiting the high schools every day during the week to work within the classrooms with the teachers, like on the work training for the teachers. So you will be encouraged to be bringing facilitation skills, but of course we will be giving you the tools also to be facilitators. So it's a learning process for everyone, for the community, for you, and we are excited also on that part. Now we will give you all the agency for you to be capable to do all of this job. You will be also collaborating with other local organizations that belong to other ministries. Principal partner or major partner is Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, but also other ministries that are working in development, right? So there will be opportunities to develop public health monitoring and evaluation skills and facilitation for you, teaching techniques for you, and we will try to incorporate a gender lens in all we do. So I think it's going to be super interesting. What we are planning is to have the project running for 6 years, right? So this is the length of the program, and we will put you in a site as a first generation volunteer. And then when you finish your service in 2 years, another volunteer will be placed at the same site. And again, for the third volunteer. So you will be the ones paving the road, opening the path for 2 other volunteers for a total of 6 years serving in a community, because we would like to have a point of view of sustainability. And we will be explaining more about this during pre-service training. But that's in general what we do. And also you will have orientation retreat before you come to the full PhD, and we will explain a little bit more face-to-face when we see each other there. I think this is a very general overview, but we will also have some Q&A time by the end of this call. So I will stop here with something very general, but then if you have any specific questions, I will be super willing to connect with you.
Yeah, and I think you all should know that Miriam is here very dedicated to her objectives with her whole food fit spinach and goat cheese salad with some beets.
All right, sorry, you just made me hungry and jealous of your lunch. Okay.
All right.
So, this is Jamie again. I'm just gonna compliment a little bit about what Miriam was saying, in terms of placement in the country, and just to give you an understanding of where Peace Corps Peru works. So Peru is a very large country. We work in the 2-year program for our 2-year volunteers. We work in 6 different regions, okay? For the health project, you can be expected to be placed in Amazonas, which is mainly one of our mostly rainforest region. Cajamarca, which is mostly highlands, like in the Andean mountains. La Libertad, which has coast and highlands. Ancash, which is Sierra Highlands. Or Junín, which is a combination, could be highland or could be rainforest. Our youth volunteers also may be placed in Pasco. And so some of you might, have some of your peers in our group that will be placed in that 6th region. Okay,
Can I add something about?
please, go ahead.
It's interesting because when you hear the word Amazonas, you might think about, the Amazon River. That's not the Amazon River. It's not like really that rainforest. It's like we use a term for that area. It's called ceja de selva. It's kind of like the eyebrow of the rainforest, right? So it's not really like you will not necessarily be like the lush green forest, but it's like, it's a combination. I like to call it, it's where the highlands end and where the rainforest starts, right? It's that combination. So you'll not see like super lush green trees, but you'll see like green mountains, which is very interesting and very unique, right? And also the weather may vary. It's not like really that hot like you might think in the Amazon rainforest, right? So it's a very particular region, Amazonas. So if you want to look it up, definitely do your research, and you'll find out that Amazonas is a very unique region.
Okay, thanks, Enrique. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you now about some key messages here for your Peace Corps service that Peace Corps Peru would like to share with you as you have 1 month left before you arrive in country. So the first thing we want to talk about is commitment to service. As you start, and you probably already have been reading materials about core expectations for Peace Corps service, commitment is one of the major themes that you will see throughout all of our materials. It's very important to us, and I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper in what it means. Oftentimes, when making the decision for Peace Corps, it's a big one, and we hear volunteers saying, well, I'll give it a try. I'll go to PST, see what it's like, maybe do a couple months, maybe do a year, but if it's not for me, I can just leave. I'm just a volunteer. While there is some truth to that statement, we would like you to dig a little deeper and explore a little bit more what your commitment really is now before you come to Peace Corps. It's not just about you. Service really is about the communities that we serve. And when we work with these communities, and we've been working with them now for several years, a lot of these communities have had volunteers before you. They have an expectation. They expect the volunteer to live and work with them for 2 years. And that is what we promise. That is what we talk about when we're preparing your communities for your arrival. We will talk more about what this looks like and why, and what that commitment really is from a development perspective once you're here in Peru. But right now, as you're thinking about service and making this commitment, I really want you to decide now, is Peace Corps right for me? Okay? And it's okay if it's not. It's okay if you make the decision not to come before arriving. Because when you get here, it's more difficult when you make that decision. For this reflection that you'll be having over the next month, I'd also like you to explore commitment as it relates to your family and friends back home. So it's a big decision. You'll be leaving your friends and family for 2 years. They're also going to be going through this adjustment process with you and committing to, this decision that you're making. If you're in a relationship with a significant other, I really challenge you to have a discussion with that person and talk about what this means and ensure that they're supportive of this decision as well. You may have already had several conversations, I imagine, but it really, it hits home once you depart. And we have seen in our experience with volunteers that you don't really realize how difficult it is until you arrive. And so start talking about what that looks like, start talking about how you're going to communicate, how you're going to manage a long distance relationship under more challenging circumstances than you might be used to. Please also take into account that over these 2 years, you will miss a lot of family events. So part of your commitment to service is exploring, being away from those things that that are important to you with your family and friends back home. And so there will be weddings, there will be babies that are born, there will be graduations, okay, that you can't expect to be able to go home for all of those things. And so start talking to your family now, especially if you know of a family event or a friend's event that is in the works to be planned and at which you are expected to attend. And in particular, I want you to understand that there are policies around when you can take vacation that will impact your ability to attend these events. You will read this. Oh, our computer's going low, so I'm going to keep talking. You will read more about this in a policy handbook that I'm going to be sharing with all of you in the next week. We'll be putting it on Learning Space. But you can also gain access to this information in the Peace Corps Worldwide Handbook about annual leave or vacation for volunteers. But in your first 3 months of service, which for you will be December, January, and February, you are not permitted to take vacation, okay, whether it's in country or out of country. So if you are aware of a family event or any special event back home at which your attendance is expected, please let them know now that you will not be able to attend. We do not make exceptions for that rule. The same goes for your last 3 months of service. So you might be thinking, wow, that's 2 years from now, but I know volunteers are planners and you probably have your life planned out. So the last 3 months of service are also off limits for taking vacation. And the reason behind all of this for the first 3 months and the last 3 months is service, it's commitment. You are there in the first 2 months to integrate and become part of your community, and in order for that to happen, you have to be there. At the end of service, as you're exploring closing up all of your projects and your activities and saying your goodbyes, it also requires you to be there, and so we do not permit vacation in those last 3 months. Okay, so that's our introduction on commitment and the different factors that are involved with it, and so please take the time now and explore that for yourself and what this means, okay? I now want to talk about professionalism. It's a word that we throw out there, and you'll also see as a theme in a lot of the materials that you'll be reading about Peace Corps. But we have found in our time that sometimes this word can have different meanings for people, and so I want to explain to you the key components of professionalism that we consider here at Peace Corps Peru, which we will also talk to you more about once you arrive. So the first thing that I like to clarify is professionalism is an important component of your service in terms of your relationships that you will build with Peace Corps staff and with the communities that you serve. You are not just a volunteer. That's often a statement that I hear. I'm just a volunteer. You're not a volunteer. From the perspective of the community, they see you as a development worker. From Peace Corps Peru's perspective, we see you as a development worker. From the counterparts that you'll be working with, they see you as a development worker. You are educated, you all have different experiences, professional experiences that you're bringing here to contribute to your service. And so you need to start seeing yourself from that lens, because that is how we'll be training you, and that's how we'll be working with you once you arrive in country. So what does that mean? Well, you are signing up for a professional service program. It's a job. It's not just volunteer service, okay? And so we want you to start thinking about that from different angles. The first one is policy. So I already mentioned our policy handbook. We are going to expect that you review all of that handbook before you arrive, and then I will be facilitating 2 sessions during your pre-service training that have to do with those policies. You will have quizzes throughout pre-service training about those policies. By the end of the 11 weeks, we expect you to become extremely familiar with those policies. Why do they exist? They exist to protect you. They exist to ensure that you have a productive service, and they exist to protect the agency, okay? And so please become familiar with them, and then we'll have a time to talk and have a Q&A once you're in your country, and I'll answer all of your questions, okay? So implicit in these policies, you will see another theme that comes out along with professionalism, which is volunteer conduct. There's an entire section dedicated to volunteer conduct. You know, in addition to saying we expect you to behave in a professional manner, you'll see a variation of what that conduct could look like within these policies. And one of them has to do with alcohol, and another one has to do with drugs. And I want to share with you here a message that you will continue to hear through your staging facilitation and when you arrive in country. Peace Corps, as I hope you know by now, has a 0 tolerance policy for drugs. 0 tolerance means never. Just one time is enough, and it's enough for Peace Corps to administratively separate you from service, which means we terminate your service, and we send you back home. Within this policy, we will talk about what it means, but I want to focus at this point about marijuana use. Marijuana has become legal in some of the states in the United States at the state level. And some of you may live in those states, and some of you may use marijuana on a regular basis, which is within that state law. But once you sign up for Peace Corps service, and once you step foot at staging, and then you come into When you enter on duty and you are a Peace Corps trainee, you're expected to follow Peace Corps policy, which follows federal law. And federal law says that marijuana is illegal, regardless of the laws in the countries in which we serve. So all volunteers around the world must follow this drug policy. We will talk about this more, but I want you to think about this now. In particular, if this is going to be a challenge for you or a concern, please make the decision now not to serve in the Peace Corps. Next, another component of professionalism has to do with our dress and our hygiene, okay? We'll talk to you about how to maintain your health and your hygiene during pre-service training with our doctors. But in terms of dress and packing your clothes now, we'll share some information with you on the learning space from the Dress for Success guide and a packing list in the Bridge to PST. So you'll see a list of what are typical things volunteers should bring. But my advice to you is the following. You're not coming on a camping trip. You're not coming on a rough it backpacker vacation. Okay, you're coming here to serve and to work with our community partners. And our community partners will dress within the means that they have, and they'll dress within the cultural norms that they practice. For you, that means bring business casual clothing. That means be prepared to have meetings in government, local government offices. Be prepared to work in health centers. Be prepared to work in local schools. And in each of these settings, there is a certain expectation of how to dress. It could be wearing pants, slacks, skirts, dresses, especially with skirts and dresses considering knee length or longer, okay? But explore the packing list that is shared, and I know you can find the information you need to make sure you pack what is appropriate. And during training, for all the events that we coordinate with you, the staff will be giving you cues and tips about what you should be wearing or what you should not be wearing, okay? Okay, communication. I think this is my last, a couple more points. We'd like to talk about communication now, and you'll see some information in the Bridge to PST document about communication options when you come to country. But here, my message to you is start now thinking about what it's going to mean to reduce your use of communication methods when you're here in Peru. You'll need to adapt to less access. You'll need to adapt to less communication with family and friends that you might on a daily, regular basis. You will now have to adjust to a different frequency, okay? And the way to look at this is the following. Although our relationships back home are important to us, and communicating with them is important, start now that messaging, that same messaging that I'm asking you to discuss with them about your commitment and being supportive of you and staying here for 2 years in Peru. Equally, start asking them to be supportive of you, reducing how much contact and communication that you'll have during Peace Corps. I often see volunteers having one foot in Peru and one foot in the United States on a regular basis. And while they're talking to their host mom and their Peruvian household, they got their mom on WhatsApp on their phone, okay? Although technology facilitates really interesting cross-cultural interactions these days and it has kind of globalized our community, it also can have a negative unintended consequence on your ability to reduce your dependency on that communication and that need to be in touch with your family. The more you can be in touch in person and build those relationships with Peruvians and put that phone down and leave it over here, the more you will build up your interpersonal relationships with people in this community that help support your service. And it'll help your adaptation, it'll help your language skills, it'll help everything that you need for a successful service. So I challenge you now, start practicing putting that phone down, maybe limit the hours a day that you use it, limit the hours a day you're watching something on your computer, and start feeling that out for yourself, okay? And also please tell your families and friends that when you get to Peru, your access will be limited, and you won't be able to be as communicative as usual. And my last point here has to do with about integration. So kind of building on some of the themes that I've been talking to you about: conduct, professionalism, commitment, communication. Integration is a word that you will hear us talk about a lot, and integration is the umbrella, I think, for a lot of those concepts. In order for you to be successful in your service, you need to become part of the community. That's the essence of what is integration. And we want you to start that process the day you arrive to Peru. And so training, you'll be in a training community with a training host family for 11 weeks. Our host families are outstanding. They will support you. You will love them, and they will feel like your family by the end of the time that you're here. And so we want you to treat them like that. We want you to start seeing your training community as your first site. Site is the word we use to refer to where you will serve for 2 years, right? But let's look at training as that first site, that first opportunity to practice all of these skills, to adapt, to practice your language, and to practice how to build a relationship in the Peruvian context. Use your family as your primary support network and start seeing them as that. in lieu of maybe your support network that you are used to right now. And my last point, I think I said that now 3 times, but this really is my last point. So core expectation 3. So I talked about core expectations when I started my section here, and we want you to get familiar with them, and we'll be continuing to talk about them over PST. But one of our favorites is core expectation 3, which says, go where Peace Corps asks you to go and under the condition of hardship if necessary. And there are a lot of applications for that expectation, but I'm going to apply it to what it means for your future site placement. So Miriam, your health program manager, will be meeting with you through PST to get to know you. And that'll actually start with the skills inventory that Enrique spoke about or will speak about. It helps us get to know what is your background and what are your interests, okay? And we will have discussions with you through PST to get to know you better. And ultimately, staff will make the decision about where you will go for placement. Married couples are always placed in the same site, okay? So at this point, I just want to set that expectation that it's one of the decisions that you wait for with such anticipation in week 7 of PST, when you will find out where you're going for your next 2 years. And I ask you to trust the process and respect the process that we really have been working hard for many, many years on how to identify a site and how to place volunteers in the site that is right for you. Okay, so that conversation will start as soon as week 1 when you meet Miriam and have your first program manager interview. And that is all I have on messaging, and I'm going to pass it now over to Enrique.
All right, thank you, Jamie. So after these key messages, right, they will be included in our bridge to pre-service training. Another big area that you guys need to think about before coming to Peru is your training, your pre-service training, or PST, right? You've heard that acronym a lot. You'll be hearing a lot of that for the next 3 months. So pre-service training is comprised of 11 weeks, right? We start on September 11th when you arrive at post, and then you guys will be swearing in on November 29th, right? So 11 weeks. What do we do during those 11 weeks? One of the components is technical training. So you will have a technical trainer, technical expert, who will be working with you, facilitating the sessions, guiding you through the information, knowledge, skills, and attitudes that you need to acquire in order to be a successful community health volunteer. We will send out a skills inventory survey. We will send out a survey with a list of skills that we require from community health volunteers. We want you to complete that survey. Take your time to complete the survey, because that will give us an idea of how much experience and expertise you have in the areas that you will be facilitating during your service, right? So please make sure that you complete that survey. That will serve the team to better prepare lessons and also to see if they can incorporate some of the, have some of you guys as trainees go facilitate some of the session or share that knowledge that you have with your peers. Another big component that we have is language training. All of you, or most of you, have already taken part in the language proficiency interview that happened last week. Thank you to the ones who scheduled their LPIs and the ones who already completed it. Please, if you still haven't done one, email me so that we can schedule it as soon as possible. We need all that information in order to start preparations for pre-service training. During pre-service training, you will receive language training in Spanish, and some people will receive Quechua language training. Now, Quechua is a language spoken in the highlands of Peru. In the regions where we work, it's mostly spoken in Ancash. So what we will do is, during the first week of pre-service training, you will meet with your program manager, with Miriam, and then you will talk more about your interest and experience learning Quechua. We will talk more about your skill set, and also another factor that will determine whether or not you learn Quechua is your Spanish language level. If you're at a level of intermediate high or higher, then you will be eligible to take part in Quechua training. In the skills inventory survey that we will send you, there will also be a couple of questions related to Quechua. So if you're interested, if you want to learn more about the Quechua language and culture, please answer those questions. We will let you know during week 2 of pre-service training who's going to be placed in Ancash and who's going to start Quechua language training. The rest of you will find out your placement during week 7, right? During week 7 on October 30th, everybody will find out where they're going to be working for the next 2 years. Only the ones going to Ancash will know beforehand, but they will only know the region, not their specific sites, right? And then another important aspect of training, of pre-service training, is intercultural training. It's impossible for us to teach you everything there is to know about Peruvian culture, right? In other weeks, we wouldn't be able to do that, or even talk about every single site. So what do? We train you on intercultural competence. What we want to give you tools and strategies and techniques that you can use in order to bridge gaps between the Peruvian culture and the U.S. culture when you're interacting with your host family, with host country nationals. What strategies can you use in order to minimize and in order to work these differences or these cultural clashes, right? So that's what we're going to be doing during pre-service training. You're going to be discussing strategies with your language facilitators in your technical sessions, in safety and security sessions. You're going to be getting these strategies so that you can apply them during your service. And also you will have a team of doctors that will be facilitating sessions for you, and a safety and security team that will also carry out some sessions in order for you to be ready for your service. And a very important aspect of training is the attitude that you keep towards your training, right? There will be people with experience in the community health sector. There will be people who might not have had a lot of experience in the sector. So it's very important to keep an attitude where you are staying positive and you're cooperating with others to help them learn and also see what you need to learn and reflect on that. There's also an assessment process. During pre-service training, we will observe and give you feedback on the criteria that we want all of our trainees to achieve by the end of pre-service training. We have a set list of expectations and criteria that we want from you, and then we will present that to you at the beginning of pre-service training, and throughout pre-service training, we will be evaluating, assessing your progress, giving you feedback, telling you how to achieve these competencies that we want you to achieve. And by the end of pre-service training, we will determine who is ready to serve and who is ready to become a volunteer after you have completed all these qualification criteria, right? We'll give you more information on that during the first week, as I said, but keep that in mind, right? Pre-service training is going to be a time for you to get ready and to get feedback and to determine who's actually ready to serve. As Jamie mentioned, Peace Corps is not for everyone, and there are times when people realize that during pre-service training. As they're going through the training, they realize, hey, maybe this is not what I wanted to do, which is totally okay too, right? Pre-service training is also that time for people to realize what they really want to do. But start thinking about that. Start thinking about what you really want to do. If you're really willing to work in a rural area, commit to 2 years of service, start analyzing all of that. Because really, as Jamie said, Peace Corps is not for everyone, and it takes actually a lot of courage to decide that you want to serve, but it also takes a lot of courage for people to decide, hey, maybe this is not the time for me right now. Now, Michelle, do you have any other updates that you want to share with the group?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. As I said, my name is Michelle Dig. I am just starting here working at Peace Corps as the country desk officer for the past month or so. I will be the first person from Peace Corps staff that you will meet when you do get to staging. Before that, my job is to support staff at post. So Jamie and Enrique and Tammy, those folks, as well as invitees, trainees, and volunteers. So you may have already seen a lot of emails from me, just asking you to please submit your passports, please submit your visas. It's today, August August 7th, you have not done so, I'm going to be making phone calls today talking about the expectations that we have of sending in visas now, because at this point we're just a little bit late in the game, and I cannot expedite visas any faster than a week ago. So we are just encouraging everyone to please send in your visa forms back. I know your consulate is a very picky consulate, and a lot of the teachers have been rejected because of the background or not showing the background or having blurriness. So I know that we've been harping a lot on that. We apologize for the pickiness. We are just the communicators of the visa application for Peru, and we do hope that everyone can go to Peru. And we appreciate your efforts in making this happen. So apart from visas and passports, we're, like Enrique said, just urging everyone to turn in resumes and aspiration statements and uploading them onto Learning Space so that we can best put you in a site. Also, in a few weeks, I just want to let you know that I will be sending out a bridge to PST that will be sent out with it'll be like a packet that will have information on what you can expect in country when you do arrive. So also, you will be receiving an email from me soon regarding staging information. You guys will be arriving, those on the West Coast and further out will be arriving, the majority on Monday, September the 9th, and along with everybody else on registration day, Tuesday the 10th. Registration will be at noon, so please dress in business casual, business casual dress code for registration day. However, Enrique did note that you do not need to wear business casual on the plane to Peru, so good for you guys. Be comfortable. I think they'll understand. Also, we just want to make sure if you do have any extra questions specific to your travel down or visas or passports, please feel free to email me after this call. I'll try to get back to them by the end of the day. I think that's all I have for everyone right now. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Michelle. So now the next section, as Michelle mentioned, staging is going to be on September 10th. Right after that, on the 11th, you guys will get on the plane from Miami to fly all the way to Lima. You'll arrive here at night. We will be there. Peace Corps staff will be there welcoming you. We usually get access to go to meet you guys at the gate and be there before you go through migrations. So if we get permission, then the country director, Tevi Caprio, and myself will be there. We'll gather briefly for a welcome and then do a head count, and then we'll give you instructions to go through migrations. Make sure that you have your passports ready. Your official passport has to be ready, and then the migrations officials will stamp it for 183 days, right? After that, you'll pick up your bags, and then we'll leave the airport, we'll get on buses, and then you'll go to a retreat site for only one night. And then the next day, we'll start our orientation days at the training center. Very important, make sure that you pack one bag only for that first night, right? What happens, what will happen is your bags will be sent straight to the training center. So you will not have access to your bags that first night. So please make sure that you pack a bag with toiletries and business casual clothes for the next day, because the next day, the first day at the training center, you have to wear business casual clothes. As Michelle said, on the plane, it's okay, since you'll be traveling for a few hours, and when you get there, you're gonna be tired, so it's okay. You don't have to wear business casual clothes. Just we do have a group photo at the airport, so I'm just telling you, so you're ready for that picture. But it doesn't have to be. You don't have to wear business casual clothes. And then on the first day of training, yes, business casual clothes. So pack that on the bag that you need for that first night. In terms of preparation for your arrival, we have uploaded a document called Peace Corps Dress for Success. There's also a packing list that volunteers have put together, but that varies depending on the sector. So that's only a reference. A lot of you will be visiting health posts and schools, high schools. So you guys definitely need business casual clothes for that. In terms of sleeping bags, you don't need to bring them if you don't have space. A lot of times, especially the people placed in the highlands, the volunteers use their sleeping bags as a way to cover themselves at night. So if you have space and you want to bring a sleeping bag, then you can. If not, you can always buy one here. Here in Lima, you can find most of the brands that are available in the States. They're available here too. So you have a particular brand, you most likely will be able to find them here. And then in terms of gifts for your host families, guys will have 2 host families, one during pre-service training during the first 11 weeks of service, and then another family during your 2-year service, right? So make sure that you bring some gifts for the families, to show your appreciation for the fact they're opening their houses to you. So you could bring maybe some chocolate or maybe magnets, postcards from your hometown, stuff like that. Chocolates always work out pretty well. Most families really like chocolate from the US. And then if you have any questions, again, we're gonna open it up for questions on the conference call line. There's a couple questions here on the live chat. Kaylee is asking, is there a US credit card you would recommend that works well in Peru and doesn't have international fees? Do you know many, Jamie?
So for credit cards, you can use Visa or MasterCard here very easily. I have, it's a Capital One Visa card that I use. You don't get charged anything extra. You pay essentially the conversion difference. So like I pay in soles, and then on my credit card I get charged in dollars. So whatever the exchange rate was for that day is what I get charged. There's no additional fee that you would have to worry about. In terms of ATM cards, however, you would be charged a fee by the local bank and by your bank in the United States, unless you have there are some banks that have international agreements with like other sister banks, and they don't charge. So for example, Bank of America doesn't charge you if you use Scotiabank, for example. But
Wells Fargo too.
Yeah. And other banks, so my bank, I have PNC Bank, and they will reimburse me up to 10 transactions a month on a non-PNC ATM. So depending on the ATM card you have, that would be the only fee to expect. And Peace Corps is going to open a local bank account for you, so you'll have a local bank which we put all your living allowance into for your regular needs.
All right. Yeah, then we will also include a section on banks in the bridge to PST. There's another question from Gabriela. Gabriela saying, recognizing that we'll partly be working around the high school schedule, when is the Peruvian summer vacation to have a better idea of when we will experience a downtime with our workload? You want to answer? Okay, so the school year starts in March and it ends in December, mid-December, right? So there's usually a vacation in July. It's like the mid-year vacation. So yeah, most of the work you will be doing starts in March. Planning starts in February, so usually teachers go on leave or vacation from mid-December to the month of January, and then February they start planning, right? So that's an idea, so you can get an idea of what the school year looks like. There's another question here. Should we bring our non-Peace Corps passports if we have them for traveling outside of Peru?
So 2 things on passports. When you're going to get a no-fee passport, Peace Corps passport for your entire service. You're expected to use this passport for all of your travel while you are a volunteer. So when you take vacation outside of Peru, if you go to the United States or to another country, you're expected to use that passport because that is one that will have your visa for returning back into the country. And we suggest you also bring your personal passport because it's a good backup for when you finish your service. Oftentimes volunteers may want to continue to travel, okay? And so you'll leave Peru and you'll exit the country, and then you'll have your personal passport to continue traveling.
All right, more questions. That was Caroline, thank you. Amy asks, will we be able to know who our host families are before going? So no, Amy, will not know that information until you get here to post. During the first day of pre-service training, the day right after you arrive, you will meet your host families at the end of the day, and you'll go with them. It's a very nice day, you'll see. Because host families also don't know who their trainees are. So it's like you both go through the same process of like, oh my God, like this is my family, this is like my kid, and it's a really nice time at the training center. So yeah, I know that you might want to buy something specifically for the kids, but as I said, chocolate always works out. A keychain or a magnet for the fridge, or like a postcard, those things. Yeah, something simple. They don't really expect something big from you. So don't worry about it. Then Gabriela has another question. Would you recommend we bring one pair of medical scrubs just in case if it's ever the appropriate attire for what we'll be doing that day? No, I wouldn't say you don't need scrubs really, because you are not scrubs here. Like if you wear them, you will be seen like as health professionals, and you are not working as health professionals, right? You're working as community health facilitators. So some volunteers, they get scrubs to work during service, but during pre-service training, you don't really need them. So don't worry about that. As long as you're wearing your business casual clothes, you're gonna be fine at the health post or at the schools. Another question, can you list the different regions that we could be placed again, or would that information be available somewhere else? We can list the regions again if you want to list them, Jamie, and I can type them up here too.
Okay, so the first region was Amazonas. Second region is Ancash. I'll go to my list so I don't forget. The next region is Cajamarca. The next region is La Libertad. And the last region is Junín.
Yes.
So you can type them in there for you.
Yes, we just typed them out there. So you have all those 5 regions where you guys might be placed, or will be
I want
placed.
to ask something
Yes, go
in
ahead.
regards to the region.
Yeah.
For the health crew, it's true you will be placed in Amazonas, Cajamarca, La Libertad, Ancash, and Junín, but please bear in mind that you will be placed in Sierra sites, so meaning not coastal sites,
Right.
okay? So it's not, because for example, La Libertad is a region that has a part of the region that is coastal with a sea, the Pacific Ocean, but then the other parts are high mountains. So it's most likely that the volunteers that are going to be placed in La Libertad are going to go to the mountains. And in general, for the health crew, most of the sites are Sierra sites or mountain sites. Foothills could be, for example, not necessarily coastal site or a desert town.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, either in the live chat or in the conference call line? If you have questions in the conference call, please say your name and then ask us the question.
Hi, my name is Gabriela, and I have a quick question. So this is just for like context purposes. So if we're starting this project that's like 6 years long and all that kind of stuff, just out of curiosity, what have the health volunteers that are currently there, what is they've been working on, and how is this different than what they've been doing?
You got that, Miriam?
Would you repeat, please? Yes, I can repeat it. So my question was, recognizing that we are the first generation of this next project, I was curious as to what the previous health volunteers have been working on and how it's different than what we will be doing. Great question, thank you. So it is different because maybe the approach we are given is a little bit different. We are focusing now on capacity building, technical tech training of trainers, something that will last even some more time after you are more sustainable. But maybe the areas of work are similar. So currently, service volunteers are working in anemia, but maybe they are working
with a direct service approach because they are the ones, for example, doing house visits alone, sometimes with a community partner. But in your case, we are encouraging you guys that do all those house visits and other practices to be held together, whether it is a health center staff or a local volunteer, as seen as a community health agent, or things like that. The same goes, for example, when working in prevention on pregnancy. Current volunteers are working with youth groups as volunteer peer leaders, right? In your case, we will ask you guys and we will train you on how the teachers could be the ones leading the process, and you will be accompanying them on that process. Those could be a couple of examples on the slightly different ways of work and activities doing outside.
Right. Thank you, Miriam. Any other questions on the conference call line? Thank you, Gabriela, for the question. Right. Yeah, so if there are no other questions, then we'll end the call right now. But you can always email Michelle or email me if you have specific questions. We'll send you more information, as we said, Bridge to PSD. Make sure you read it. That will probably clarify a lot of the questions you might have. But do reach out. We're really excited to meet you in September, on September 11th. So yeah, thank you for joining. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Miriam, Michelle.
Ciao.
Bye.